Welcome back to True Geordie Extra, and Israel Adesanya has proven himself to be one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. It's one thing to be a dominant champion, but it's another thing to be a dominant champion who loses by knockout and comes back to reclaim what is yours by knockout. There are fighters who never recover from that. We're looking at Anthony Joshua right now in the boxing game, who has not been the same fighter for years since he got chinned. And Israel Adesanya jumped right back in there with the guy who stopped him in kickboxing, followed him to MMA, stopped him in MMA, and put the lights out on this guy. And Pereira, what a fighter he is. I've got to give credit to both men. It's one thing to see a great kickboxer in MMA like an Anderson Silva, but Anderson had never had a dance partner who could fuck with him on the skills. But these two, they make a masterpiece together. We could watch this every week and never get bored. It is so exciting and tremendous level in there. World-class kickboxing at its finest. Now, some people will look at the results of these two fighters and look at the 3 fights to Pereira. Israel wins this one, but it's by knockout. Oh, it's just lucky. Well, it's not lucky. There's nothing lucky about this at all. For a start, Pereira's strike and defense is actually really good. And when he's trading with you in the pocket, he knows how to twist at the body, bring his shoulder up, elongate the distance between his chin and your punches, and he always just manages to stay out of distance a lot of the time. Similar to what Tyson Fury does in the heavyweight division, it always feels like those smaller guys just can't land clean on him because he knows just how to make it difficult for you to land on him. So what Israel Adesanya did is he must have looked at that first fight and looked at, when did I catch him? Where was it he at his most vulnerable? Well, this was it here. Pereira's got his hands low here. He's on the attack. Is he moving towards the cage in a defensive position in the cage? But he sees Pereira has his hands low and he goes for this shot. Bang! First the jab with the right hand. And at that moment, let's be real, if the referee doesn't stop that there, that fight ends by knockout. Izzy would have finished him. Izzy is a finisher. When he hurts someone, he shuts the lights out. We know that. Now, that fight was actually going to end in a decision for Israel Adesanya before the eventual stoppage due to the power of Pereira. And that's why this win means even more, in my opinion, is because when you go in there and knock out such a heavy-handed fighter in Pereira, is there anything Israel Adesanya can't do at this point? Now, when you look at the defensive position Israel Adesanya is in this rematch, you see that Pereira is coming in for the kill, and it's one of the few times where he leaves himself vulnerable. Both hands are very low. Israel is covering up, which he did very well in this moment. But as you'll see, the eyes, Chico, they never lie, and the eyes are looking right at Pereira, noticing those vulnerabilities. The jab lands, then comes the big right hand from Israel Adesanya, who a lot of people think his power punches aren't actually his best weapon. A lot of people think his kicks are good. Well, what does this say? This man just knocked out the king of knockouts. And this was the view from the crowd. Izzy did so well to cover up there to take as minimal damage as possible. And I want to give credit to both men here, showing respect, true sportsmanship. And you need a dance partner to bring the best out of you sometimes. And not everyone responds the way these two have. And I'm sure they'll do it again because every fight you watch is competitive. The first fight, Pereira won by decision in the kickboxing days. Very competitive. The second fight up until the knockout, you could argue Izzy was winning that fight. I mean, it was very close. I'm just saying you could argue that. Third fight, Izzy, for me, definitely winning the fight up until the knockout. And now you've got an Izzy knockout win where Pereira arguably was getting the better of it in that second round. So, these two are just such a well-matched couple of guys. And we are going to see them bring the best out in each other again, I'm sure. This guy is such a fucking personality, man. I love it. The problem with Stylebender that has sort of hindered him is how good he is. And I'll make that make sense in a second. Because he's so capable of these highlight reel knockouts and these immense moments on camera where he can talk so well that we want that every fight. But the reality is he's also good enough to coast against a lot of these guys. He's untouchable for so many of these fighters who can't take him down, can't fuck with him on the feet. So he can just breeze through most of them. And that's why I love Pereira for this. He brought the absolute best out in this guy. This was a real mental demon to conquer. This guy has knocked you out twice. I can't remember off the top of my head another UFC fighter who's lost by knockout twice to a guy and then come back to beat him for a title. I remember Cain Velasquez when he got knocked out of Junior Dos Santos, and he came back and beat the living shit out of him, but it wasn't the same as this even. Yes, I love these family moments in the octagon, man. They really do like warm the heart. You know, this is a journey for these guys.
I hope every one of you behind your screens or in this arena can feel this level of happiness just one time in your life. I hope all of you can feel how happy I am.
Just to interrupt this guy, because I'm sure a lot of you heard this by now. What an amazing thing to start a post-fight speech with. You've got to think, right, in that moment, you're probably in your most egotistical. You've just knocked out the guy who chinned you, who everyone said you could never beat. You've proven the world wrong. And the thing he thinks about is about how other people can learn from and feel the same thing. It's so thoughtful. You know, it's very conscious that you're not all up in you and who you are in that moment.
Just one time in your life. But guess what? You will never feel this level of happiness if you don't go for something in your own life. When they knock you down, when they try on you, when they talk about you, and they try to put their foot on your neck. If you stay down, you will never ever get that resolve. Fortify your mind and feel this level of happiness as you rise. One time in your life, but I'm blessed to be able to feel this again and again and again and again and again.
I really don't think we'll hear a better fucking post-fight speech ever than that. We might hear something just as good, but that is everything and more that fight fans want to hear from a fighter. You are inspiring us. We look at these fighters as bigger and better than us, as inspirational people who are brave, who get in there and do things we can't do. And we want to be able to identify with that. And that message that he's sending is, if there's something you want to do, you're never going to fucking achieve it by sitting on your ass. And as cliche as it is, the fear of failing stops so many people from doing that. And that's what he is saying is, if you don't get over that shit, you're never gonna fucking have that. And that's all we want to hear from a fighter. We want to be inspired by you guys. When fighters put their fans down, or they say, you don't have the right to tell me what to do, you aren't a fighter, or they don't appreciate our opinion or our support, and then they chicken out of the big fight because it's, oh, I can get this one easier fight for money, or when they get the fight and they don't pull the trigger in the fight, and they sit there and they don't have the balls to go for it because they're fearful of being knocked out, of being put on their ass. That ain't inspiring us. So people like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua's and the heavyweights out there and basically the whole of fucking boxing. This is what we're talking about. This man lost 3 times and came back and knocked this motherfucker out and told people, you can't do that. You can't have that happiness unless you're willing to be humiliated. The UFC has its biggest star back because in terms of personality, fighting ability, and having that championship title around his waist, no one shines brighter than Izzy. Not when he's on his game. There's no one can touch him in the UFC.
They say revenge is sweet, and if you know me, I got a sweet tooth. You already know this is sweet.
This guy has got all the best lines, man. Like, he is such a smart guy. And like, look, I'm very fortunate to have interviewed this man, had him in this very room in the podcast. You get the picture. He is a smart guy very quickly. You understand that. And not only that, genetically gifted. So he walks through the door. This man is very tall, very long-limbed. I'd not long met Darren Till before that. No disrespect, he's a tough guy, hell of a fighter, but he looks like a normal guy. Israel Adesanya, when you meet him, you're like, you're in the same weight class as Darren Till. How is that even possible? He doesn't look like a normal guy. He is genetically gifted, plus genius, plus hard work. And that's what a world champion is. Do you know what I mean? It's the genetics plus all of the extras that go into that and the hard work. And he has it. He has it all.
Alex is a great champion, no matter what. He lost the belt tonight, but he will always be a champion. In his story, I'm the antagonist. In his story, I'm the bad guy. But tonight, it's my story. History.
Fucking hell, mate. This guy has got lines for days, lyrics. That just shows his awareness as well to understand it ain't personal. Everyone is having their own movie, and he is not the center of the universe. You know, as much as he's giving that moment right now to himself because he's earned it, he showed a lot of humility in that, in understanding where he is in the pecking order of other people's lives. Very smart guy. To say all this, to think about this in the heat of the moment, when you should be at your most arsehole version of yourself, braggadocious, I proved you all wrong. Yeah, he's doing that, but he's dropping gems here as well.
I told him this before. Thank you. Thank you for all what you've done. Thank you for beating me, because beating me, he made me a better fighter, a better person. In this camp, I didn't around.
Love it, love it, love it. Absolutely love the attitude. This is what I'm talking about. A loss doesn't define you. It's how you come back from that loss that defines you. This really brings me on to another fighter in Anthony Joshua right now, because since his last fight, I made a video criticizing him because I'm a fan. Like, I really like this. Like, this guy is a really likable guy, and he has everything to be a great fighter, but he can't mentally pull the trigger right now. He is not his best version of himself mentally. And this is what you need to be thinking like. Just one defeat doesn't change you forever. And unfortunately with Anthony Joshua, from, you could argue, the Klitschko and the Andy Ruiz fights, he has never been the same, because he has let those demons define the rest of his fucking career, and he's never been the same guy since. He has been scared to be knocked out. And because of that, he has not been his most devastating version of himself since then, because it's always in the back of his head, whispering in his ear when he's throwing those punches. That's why he's hitting the target, not going through the target. That's why he's caught between fighting for a knockout and fighting for a decision, and he's not getting the best results because the fear is controlling him. But this man got that fear and got motivated by it and made sure, I'm going to fucking kill you first next time, prick. And not only did Israel Adesanya do it, he didn't need 3 warm-up fights, a fight against this guy. He just went straight back in, locked in, zoned in to kill or be killed. And that is exactly the problem with Anthony Joshua, as he's never been in that frame of mind since then. And a lot of them can learn from this guy. This is how you come back from a loss. And even if Israel Adesanya hadn't have won this fight, I would have respected him a lot for getting in there and going for it again. And he's got his reward. What a fighter. The sky is the limit now, because he has done something that an Anderson Silva didn't do in his career, which is come back against the guy who beat him in devastating fashion and win in devastating fashion. It's a different kind of legacy he's created now. It's one thing to have been a dominant champion. It's another thing to be a dominant champion and come back like Lennox Lewis did from a knockout and knock that motherfucker out who got you. It adds something. And I think today's generation of fight fans, we don't expect perfection. We'd much rather you have a fight career where you take on all challengers. If you lose one, you come back, you go for it. We don't need Floyd Mayweather, where he picks and chooses and I'll fight you when you're over the hill, and oh, this isn't a good stylistic matchup for me right now, I'll wait till he takes a few beatings and then I'll get him. We just want to see the best fight the best, and that's what Israel Adesanya has been giving us for years. The style bender is on top. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really appreciate all the support this channel gets. Love the fight community we've got over here. Hit that like button. Let us know what you thought of the fight in the comments, and let me know who you think Stylebender should fight next and who is his biggest challenge, more importantly. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.